Let's talk about his poll numbers because both of you have been in this game for a long time. If you were working for Donald Trump right now, or Republicans, you'd be hitting the panic button, right? Things are pretty dire for the Republican Party.
Well, let me go first, Joe, and then you go. I'd love to hear what you have to say. First, I wrote down, the latest poll numbers he's got a 38% job approval, way worse than it was in 2020. 2018,
Yeah.
his first midterm election. His job approval among independents is 1972. A net minus 53 job approval. And if you look at the sort of the strongly approved, we've talked about this before, the strongly approved versus strongly disapprove, which is the clearest sign of who's motivated.
Mm-hmm.
It's 21 strongly approved, 49% strongly disapprove. So he's in worse than Jimmy Carter territory. He is, his numbers are worse than Bush was in 2006 when the Democrats did overwhelming, worse than 2018 when there was a Democratic wave. And so in any normal election without all of the sort of unethical and unconstitutional redistricting stuff they did, in my view, this would be over already. And so the only thing keeping them in the game and even close is the fact that they picked up 6 or 7 seats by redrawn in midterm maps. So his numbers are bad. And so the only advice I could give is don't be yourself, right? Don't be Donald Trump, and your numbers may go up, but he can't help himself because he thinks he's the smartest person in the room, and he thinks he's won all these elections, and he thinks, he's smarter than generals and admirals and senators and governors, and he's smarter than everybody. And so, it would be do something totally different, try to appeal across the aisle, none of which is he wants to do or is in his DNA. And so he'd have to become somebody that he's not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually think, look, the good news here is that he's decided to be obsessed with his way out is the SAVE Act, which is a lot better than, he's decided that's better than putting troops on the ground in Iran. So I think, that's the good side of the coin, because that's the only other crazy thing that he could, that he might still try to do out of like this, he's got to disrupt the election somehow, in his view, I think. And I think Matthew's right about that. And he sees that as his only way out. It does go back. I agree with Matthew about his running because it keeps him out, out of the investigations. He knows it, and I think that's the same problem. The people who are, in the Senate, who are up, he's now, when you got 18% of independents, and Matthew and I would agree with this. I think most independents are not independents. They say they're independents, but they lean Republican. They're really Republicans who just call themselves independents, or they're Democrats who call themselves independents. And that might be a third to 40%, both ways. 40% of independents are really kind of strong leaning R's, and 35, 40 are strong leaning D's. And then you got 20% who are really seriously, like, I don't know about either of these. All of them have problems with both parties, but they lean hard. When you start getting 18 to 70 something, you just don't see independents moving that hard. It's almost like they're like in some of these elections that we've had, they're voting almost at the same proportion for Democrats as the Democrats are. They're certainly not. I've been in focus groups 2 weeks ago, 2 MAGA groups, 2 groups of Republicans who don't consider themselves MAGA, and 2 groups of independents who lean Republican. We made sure that they were, of that. None of them. They all are nowhere near the kind of energy, engagement, support. I'm not saying, but by the way, all of them, particularly the MAGA groups, were like, geez, the president is doing the best he can, but so disappointing. And if only the Democrats would get out of his way, maybe he could win that war, or maybe he could lower price. But it's, I mean, they're there, but it's very tamped down, and it's still kind of pretzels to blame somebody other than him. But there's no one jumping up and down in the room saying, oh, hell yeah, I can't wait to vote to keep this stuff going on. And then once you move over across into Republicans who don't consider themselves MAGA, or independents who lean, those leaners are voting 50-50 for the Democrat. I mean, in other words, they still do lean, but half of them are saying, no, I can't do this anymore. I'm voting for the Democrats. So it just shows how much the erosion is there. And that's why I think Matthew's right. When you look at these battlegrounds, particularly battleground districts, even the ones in Texas that they redrew, and I love Matthew, who knows a hell of a lot about Texas, but there's districts down there that they redrew based on how Latinos and independents voted for them in 2024. They're not voting that way, or not showing up in polls that way today. So I'm not even sure the redistricting advantage that they conjured up is going to be all that helpful. I'm much more worried about what he's going to do when they don't pass this thing for him, and he's got to. Who knows how outside the box he's going to be with throwing obstacles up to stop people from voting.